You're listening to Real Conversations, where every week we take a peek at the favorite movies of fascinating people. Real Conversations is hosted by Brian Coley, the founder of Art Within and Real. Today on the show, Brian sits down with David SALYERS, Vice President of Brand Activation for Chick-fil-A. David began his career out of college as the second person hired in the marketing department at Chick-fil-A. David co-authored a book entitled Remarkable with Dr. Randy Ross, which you can find out more at remarkablemovement.com.
So I have with me today David SALYERS. David is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I promise you that. I'm not just saying it. He's been with me for a very long time, and I just love the man. So David, thanks for being here today. And as we always do, we just jump right into your top 10. So tell everybody out there what your top 10 is.
Well, we're going to lead off with Schindler's List. Classic, a favorite, very redeeming movie. And we move to Shawshank Redemption. We've got Field of Dreams, rounded out by It's a Wonderful Life.
Very cool.
Not to be confused with Braveheart. And Braveheart will never be confused with Forrest Gump. And then we slid in a little interesting one, October Sky.
That's very good. Yeah.
And a classic, Christmas Story.
Nice.
A Christmas Story. One that's not very well known, but one of my favorite ones on the list, Brian, and we'll see as we dig into this, The Ultimate Gift.
Nice.
Absolutely love that movie. Somebody gave that to me as a gift, and it's become one that I watch on an annual basis. My whole family does. And then we'll round it out with A Walk to Remember.
So let's just dive into a couple of things here. You know, one of the things that it just hits me strongly for you is I see a whole lot of people who have big dreams. I mean, you've got obviously Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams with his going to build a field. You got It's a Wonderful Life with George Bailey, who's going to, go build things and change the world and get out of Bedford Falls. You've got October Sky, and even the poster for October Sky is the sense of wonder, people looking to the sky and going to, build something that goes out there. Just a lot of big dreamers and change makers. So tell me about that in you. I know you've had a long history in Chick-fil-A, and if I could say anything about you, it'd probably be that you kind of want to live your life as a person who's making that kind of change. But when you look at that in relationship to your top 10, what does it look like to you when you see these characters?
Well, that's an interesting thought, kind of weaving it together with dreams. As I related, I've been in business all of my life. I literally, I graduated on Saturday morning. I started with Chick-fil-A 4 hours later. And been with Chick-fil-A ever since. But what's amazing from what you just said is at that time, Chick-fil-A was just a big dream. It was nothing like what you see today. We were in a converted air freight warehouse, was the home office. I was not important enough to be in that warehouse. I was in a mobile home attached to the warehouse. And they literally, Brian, had to cut a hole in the wall of the warehouse, and I walked through the hole to get to the mobile home. And they say if you spend 40 hours a week in a mobile home in Georgia, you officially qualify as trailer trash. So that's kind of where I started. But
you
then
were a Chick-fil-A trailer trash? No, we shouldn't say that. No.
But it's kind of grown since then, and it's interesting because I hadn't kind of connected the dots the way you just connected them. But I've always been drawn to startups. Yeah. When you and I first met, I was drawn to your startup. I've been drawn to startups all my life. I love people who have big dreams at the early stages. Eddie Staub, one of our mutual friends, I was his first board member. Yeah. Andy Stanley, when he started North Point Community Church, I was on the original group to help get that started. On and on and on it goes. I found myself drawn to things, but because you associate with great people who have big dreams and they're very qualified to go out and get them, they don't stay small long. Yeah. Look at the size of, all these things, the Chick-fil-A and North Point and all the rest. So I'm attracted at that early stage to people with big dreams. And the other connecting point to me, as I look at this, is all of them have redeeming value. Yeah. One of the things I'm convinced about is God didn't put us on the face of this earth to create value for ourselves. Yeah. He put us on the face of the earth to create value for other people. Yeah. And one of the themes of almost all these movies is they're people who are creating value for other people. Because I feel like that's where the real riches in life are found. That's where the real treasures are. We kind of live with the notion that it's all about me. In fact, we get taught in this culture, Me. What's in it for me? You know, WIFM is the radio station they talk about everybody listening to. They talk about generations that are what's in it for me. Yeah. But I feel like ultimately when you play that out, if you're always going after what's in it for me, there's not going to be much in it for me. Yeah. Because, you know, we see in the Bible all the time the theme is, you know, that it's better to give than to receive. Yeah. And when Christ was asked about the 10 Commandments and which was the most important, you know, he answered 2, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might, and to love others as you love yourself. It's not about loving yourself, it's about loving others, because we're naturally wired kind of to look after ourselves. Yeah. But I think we're going to push ourselves is to take that and apply it to other people. And when you do, that's where the real riches are found in life. They're not found in bank accounts. Sure. So, for instance, the ultimate gift is one that has a real strong appeal to me, because basically what they do in the ultimate gift is they use money, which everyone is drawn to and assumes are the true riches in life, and like we can never have enough money. But they use that as a leverage point to give someone the real gift. You know, here's a man who's already dead and reaches back into his descendants and see one that he thinks he can give the ultimate gift, which is not the money that he left. It's the lessons that and the riches that money can be used to create in the lives of other people, and that was the ultimate gift.
So sort of Oscar Schindler in
Yes,
the same way
Oscar
that
Schindler,
he's leveraging everything he can
to save
as many lives as he can.
And so when I think about Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
that's kind of the way Truett always approached our business. You know, unlike a lot of our competitors that look for people with lots of money, and then you know, somebody with $3 million, you can go out and buy land, build a building, stock the shelves. You know, we look for people with lots of talent, and we partner with them to give them the opportunity to build that dream business that they always wanted but couldn't afford. And we leverage the resources of this company to help individual after individual after individual realize their dreams.
You know, you just described the Bailey Building and Loan.
Yes.
Which is actually, you know, person by person, they're helping build Bailey Park, which is giving people homes.
Yes.
You know, so I see those little homes as Chick-fil-A operators.
Because what Chick-fil-A does, we don't focus on the organization being successful. Yeah. You know, the Chick-fil-A organization, we focus on each individual operator being successful in their community, and success being defined not just financially. Success being defined as, are they good stewards of the team members that they're given? Are they giving back and improving the communities that they're in? And are we financially successful enough to do all that? You know, we use our business as a platform, and it's got to be successful enough to enable us to do something far more important than put money in the bank.
A bigger dream.
Yeah, it's not about selling chicken sandwiches and drinks. We have to do that, or we can't do the rest. It enables the rest, but it's not the end in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about you in relationship to this. You know, obviously, if you just got out of college, Chick-fil-A is just ingrained in you, and so I can see there's almost no separation in your dream and Chick-fil-A's dream. It just feels like one and the same almost, your passion in it. Tell me about you, though, in this. So if you were to pick amongst the people who change people, which one would you say that you identify with most?
That's a good question. You know, in the ultimate gift, there's a grandfather, Red. I'm trying to remember Red's last name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember Red's last name. But Red was he had been really successful, but his real success was helping other people be successful. You know, he'd been able to do it himself, but that really wasn't his ultimate goal. That wasn't the ultimate gift. The ultimate gift was transferring the success he'd been able to realize into the lives of other people during his time, because like the lawyer that he used was an example of that, and the farmer that he used it, but also into his descendants, leaving a legacy of success behind that went beyond the monetary riches he'd accumulated. And he saw his success not in the monetary riches, but in the legacy that he would leave.
So this idea of significance, characters who are leaving a huge footprint, tell me how that hits you, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was modeled for me by a guy named S. Truett Cathy. You know, that's what his whole life was about. His favorite verse was, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. My favorite book that he wrote is fascinating. Is a book that he said, Wealth, the title is Wealth, Is It Worth It? And he comes to the conclusion in the first half of the book that wealth is not worth it. And he goes through and tells all these stories of people that wealth ruined. He tells the stories of lottery winners. Yeah. He tells the stories of business people, some of the local business people that you and I would both know, that wealth ruined them. And he said wealth generally tends to ruin people unless three things are true. And then he goes in the second half of the book and talks about if these three things are true, wealth will actually be a good thing in your life. But in the absence of these three, it could be destroyed. It could destroy your life. And so he kind of modeled that for me, because I think so much of society now is about chasing wealth and fame and glory and kind of self-aggrandizement.
How many likes you can get.
Yeah. And yet I saw in Truett Cathy the opposite of that. And I saw a life well lived. And it was interesting, Brian, at his funeral, I was reminded of the fact that not only is every life a story, which is something we talk often about at Chick-fil-A, that every life is a story, and our goal every day in our restaurants is to improve the stories for those we do business with. But not only is every life a story, every life makes a statement. And at the end of our life, it's either going to be a period, it's over, a question mark, what was it all about? Or a great big exclamation point where people showing up, exclaiming, and remarking about the big difference that person made in their life and how that will live on in their life. That's what I saw in Truett Cathy at his funeral. It was the greatest exclamation point I may ever see in my lifetime. And so I just got to see in Technicolor a guy who lived this out. And it's contagious. It makes you want to do the same thing.
Which one of these characters or which one of these movies would you say has the kind of happily ever after ending that you would say, like, it ends well? Like, this is how I would want kind of my life to end well, based on the ending of one of these movies.
It's probably either got to be It's a Wonderful Life, where George Bailey, after suffering, and but at the end, it all comes back to him, and he realizes, But the ultimate gift to me is almost this story of Truett Cathy, in a sense, where Truett became this very wealthy man, just like Red in the movie. But it was never about that for him. And even after death, he continued to have an impact on people left behind, and and I think that's the way Truett is. I think even after Truett's death, he's still having an impact to this day. In a big way. Was
he sort of your, if we take Ultimate Gift, were you kind of the guy?
Yes.
And he
very
was
much so.
You, or he was that
he
for
was,
you?
Yes, very much so.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And so tell me about that. How would you relate to that guy a little bit?
Well,
I can't remember his name in the movie.
Yeah. I wish I could.
Yeah.
I should have gone back and taken a look.
No, it's okay.
But, he started off as kind of the black sheep.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Now, were you that?
He was the never-do-well. Not really, but...
Because that doesn't sound like you, but is it in your history or past?
Not really.
Is there a shade of it that you kind of felt like
him? Maybe
him?
there's a shade of it in that my dad was an alcoholic, and I think I never felt, totally accepted, in that relationship maybe in those days, in the earlier days. Yeah. And then my older brother was always the shadow that I was in. He was smarter than me, better at athletics. I was always kind of in his shadow. Yeah. So I felt like I was always trying to keep up.
That's October Sky a little bit, right? I mean, it's the dad who the son's not really the apple of the eye, right?
Yeah.
And then
but I think I was always a good kid and a motivated kid, but it might have been channeled in the wrong direction. Like if I had not wandered into Truett Cathy, I think my focus would have been about becoming rich and famous and kind of self-aggrandizement. And he kind of rechanneled that effort in a much more productive way.
Wow. That is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So he, no disrespect to your dad, but oftentimes a lot of folks need a healthy father image.
Yes.
Not just, God being our father as a perfect father, but I think that God gives us an incarnation of that on this earth where, we don't have to just think about it. If for those people who are listening to this who have dads who are less than perfect, obviously we as Christians say, well, look to your Heavenly Father. He's the perfect father. But I think what helps in that is if we look around too and see that God usually